Welcome to Talking Events, the event industry podcast brought to you by Event Industry News. If you've got questions and comments regarding the podcast, please tweet us at Talking Events. The podcast is being recorded again at the IBID offices in Richmond, southwest London. Thanks to the team at IBID for hosting us for a couple of days here. Today's podcast, we're going to be looking at data integration, data management, management systems, CRM systems. Joining the podcast today, Maarten Westdorp from Scribe. Maarten, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And Steve Mackenzie, Vice President Global Channels at etouches. Steve, thanks for coming in and joining us on the podcast today.
My pleasure.
Let's look at the subject of data integration, first of all. A number of different platforms available now to event organisers. As technology continues to evolve, more and more options are out there for them to manage their data, to help market their events. All of this containing sensitive and important information. Maarten, let's come to you first, because Scribe essentially specialise in data integration. Tell us a little bit about some of the issues that are facing organisers and people who are managing data now, and some of the issues that come with trying to integrate different platforms.
Sure. So I think the important thing here is to know that we're really talking about customer data here and potential customers. And if we're doing events, there's a lot of information coming in from the events on who they are, what they like, as they sign up. And all that information can go into a platform, and you want to move it into different systems as well, so you can give the rest of the organization the same visibility as into what was happening at those events, what interesting information did we capture, so that we can actually take action on that.
And Steve, from your position at etouches in the services that you provide, where does the integration of data from other platforms that perhaps may have been previously used by an organizer come into play with your systems?
Yeah, it's important to understand that a lot of these organisers have got some legacy systems in place, and as they move to cloud-based software, they don't want to lose that valuable data they have and the interaction they need through other areas. I think we've moved on from the day of the one system will do everything for everybody. People are realising that that's not the case. You just simply can't have a system that does all that. So they're looking at best-of-breed systems. And especially these days in the cloud platforms, and they want those systems to talk to each other effortlessly. So that's the challenge that faces us as a software developer, to make sure we make that happen.
And what the client's demanding in 2015 from a data point of view, how that's managed, and what you guys deliver on their behalf?
Sure. Well, events is just one part of the business that they're doing typically, and it's one piece of the marketing equation. So they want the event information to flow back into usually into some sort of central repository, whether it's a CRM, so that they can understand their clients more and understand what their behaviour is. Of course, linking that through to their marketing automation systems, and then also their financial systems. They want to get that 360-degree view of their client, as well as being able to get away from duplication of entry. And
forgive me if this is showing any ignorance at all, but can we get too bogged down in data? Is it important to make sure that we are capturing enough data to analyse properly what we want to analyse without getting caught up too much in facts, figures, information and ones and zeros?
Yeah, totally. It's one of the things that we often say to our clients is you want to integrate X system with etouches. What do you want to do with that data? And they say, we just need it there. And well, you have to ask the question, why? And I'm sure Maarten's got some views on that too.
Yeah, I think definitely if we're looking at that data, there's definitely data that is specific to events that can just reside in the event system. But there is also shared data across the systems. Like if you look at names and addresses and those kinds of details are usually shared across multiple systems, where, for example, which session they attended might not be relevant in other systems. So that's really where we see a split, and that's important to figure out what works for your organization and what visibility do you need.
When we're talking about cross-channel integration, we're no longer really talking about just CRM systems and a marketing event or managing the process of delivering the event. Before we started recording today's episode, Maarten, we were talking about how we can actually now integrate with many other social media platforms and pull information from a number of different sources.
Yeah, so that's definitely also one of the things we do. For example, we connect to Twitter, where we can actually browse the tweets that are coming in and figure out which are the ones that actually have the hashtag for the event. And we can connect that and store that data as well. So after the event, we actually know who was tweeting about the event, which gives us an opportunity to reach out to them again, but of course through the social media channel. So that's really data that you can capture and integrate into different systems as well.
And I think to take that a step further, from a meeting planner's perspective, being able to understand more about what the person who's at the event's interested in, not just from taking the sessions they go to, but collecting all of that social media information, and maybe the sessions that they've commented about, and maybe exhibitors they've visited, taking all of that information so you really understand the pieces of the event that are important, or the items at the event that are being, or the topics that are being portrayed to them. They're the ones that you can really get that information to understand what those guys are interested in, and that's very valuable information when it comes to marketing further to those people.
I'm always curious to know, when I'm talking to tech companies or people providing a very, very specific and very, very highly qualified level of digital service to event organisers. Organisers will come to a company like etouches because of your expertise and your ability to deliver certain elements. How much, though, of their input drives the new developments that you guys are sourcing, or are you pushing stuff out onto organisers and then asking them if this is relevant to them?
No, it's a good question, because there's got to be a combination of both. etouches, started actually as a meeting planning company. We were running events for a living, and we couldn't find a solution that was written to talk the language of a planner. It was all coming from a technical aspect, as you say, being pushed at us. So we ended up writing our own software internally and used that for about 3 or 4 years, until some of our clients who we were running events for asked if they could actually utilize our software, because we'd built into it things that planners wanted. And so we've taken that to now, where this has been 9 years now, so we've been developing it for the external clients. And we're always taking in the requests they have to make the product better. Of course, we have our own grand vision and our strategic roadmap, but that's always going to be added to by our clients. And the stuff that they want is usually very, very topical, and it changes as their needs and the way they're delivering events change. So we have to be flexible with it.
Just putting you on the spot a little bit, but are there any examples that you can think of where you can remember an organizer specifically coming to you and saying, look, we have this issue, this is what we would like to do, what can you do for us?
Yeah, it happens all the time. We deal a lot with large enterprise clients, and as I was saying earlier, one solution just doesn't fit everybody. Everyone's going to have their nuances of the way they do things. So, for example, a client who came to us recently, they had a very big need for payment plans, which we have in the software. But they have a huge volume of payment plans where people are paying some money now, and then another piece maybe 3 months down the track. They needed that process automated because they had such a volume. So they said, look, we want to utilize the software. We need this. What can you do? And we looked at that. That makes absolute sense to all of our clients that who do large volume of payment plans. They wanted to do that. So we actually built some integration with one of the payment gateways to provide that, and now that's available for everybody.
How has the level of access that people now require dictated a change in the services that you provide? And when I say the level of access, I mean in terms of Scribe was founded in 1995, I understand, and that would have been before mobile devices and smartphones and tablets and laptops and connectivity pretty much 24/7. So how has people's demand to access information very, very quickly in a device in their pocket changed how you deliver your own services?
So I think the way we're looking at it is we offer it online, but the nice thing about a data integration platform is that you don't really see it doing anything. Especially if you're an event planner, this is something you won't see happening. It'll be just someone set up the integration for you. You can actually see that data moving back and forth between the systems, but you won't even see our system as an event planner. And that's where we like to be. We like to be in the background to make sure that the integrations run smoothly. so that etouches can actually sell that as added value, that they have that connectivity to different platforms. So we're just the silent machine in the background.
Yeah, I think the integrations are one of those things that they work best when you don't know they're working.
Exactly.
Most of the people running events are not technical people, and they shouldn't be. Their job is to put on the best event they possibly can and give a great experience. So, it's up to companies like Scribe and ourselves to make sure that we can deliver that technical aspect to them without them having to jump through hoops and understand all the technical know-how. But your point, though, James, on the way things have changed, absolutely. If you'd told me 5 years ago that people would want to register for an event via their mobile phone, I would have said you were crazy. Why would you want to have, look at a registration form on a 3-inch screen? It's not going to happen. But obviously these days, with the whole responsive design and everything else, a lot of people are registering for events on the tube, coming home from work, whatever they're doing. They want and they need to be able to do that from a mobile device. So that absolutely changes the way we do things.
A slight shift, but in terms of maintaining data and security of data, this is something that crops up in a number of different walks of life now. And again, because there is so much data held digitally via devices, and whether that be bank accounts or social media accounts or any sort of personal information, I'm curious to know about the level of security and what the event industry is doing at the moment to make sure that all of this data that it's generating is being kept secure and being kept safe. RefTech, I'm just referencing a piece of information here, has just achieved information security standard ISO IEC 27001-2013, a certification that confirms the company's data security policies and procedures. Is this something that you guys are aware of, or how do you approach the issue of data security?
Yeah, it's certainly a major issue and a big piece of what a lot of the companies are looking for when they're selecting a system, especially a cloud-based system, a system they don't have with the data directly in their office. So at etouches, we go to great lengths to make sure we maintain a secure system as possible. We're hosted with Amazon Web Services, which is the largest hosting provider in the world, and we follow all of their standard SLAs. And all of their security protocols and so on. In addition to that, we have, with the taking of payments online, like credit card payments for events and so on, we're PCI, which is the payment card industry accreditation, PCI level 1, which is the most stringent you can have. It's an externally audited process, and it happens every year. Costs a lot of money, but it's not just making sure the software stores that information right. It's all about the way we employ people, the background checks we do, who has access to certain things, the way we file information internally. So there's a huge amount of that sort of stuff going on under the covers that the client doesn't even know about. But to give them peace of mind, we have obviously all the documentation should their folks need to know what goes on.
And you may or may not be able to answer this, but is it with so many providers of digital services for event organisers now available, are they all taking a very, very stringent stance on this, or is there a spectrum of
definitely a spectrum
suppliers out there?
Yeah, definitely a spectrum, I would say. The major players, absolutely, it's a critical part of their infrastructure. And I'm sure Maarten sees this with a lot of the integrations. There's some companies have the infrastructure to do it, some don't.
Yeah, it's definitely like that. There's a broad spectrum of companies doing it right, and we have people doing not so right. And
what should an organizer be asking, for example? What if they're out there and you've got an organizer who's fairly new to the industry or has come to a company, they've been tasked with finding a CRM system or some sort of technology provider. What questions could they be asking?
Certainly, I think one of the first things I would ask as a planner is if my data is not being stored in my office, which obviously with most cloud-based systems it's not. Who owns that data? Is it, what are you doing with that data? And the answer should be that you, as the planner, own the data. The companies that are providing the service, unless specifically dictated in their terms and agreement, they should not be having that data. That belongs to the planner, and otherwise you can all sorts of issues with privacy and everything else. So that would be the first question I'd ask. Yeah, and this is of course also where exactly is the data being hosted? That's also a good question, I guess. You can really figure out which country which provider is hosting it. I think that Amazon is a great provider that really gives a good platform, but there's tons of other providers out there. So
make sure you know the name of that as well.
Do you get asked the question about cloud storage and exactly what it is? Because as you pointed out, Steve, event organisers are very, very good at what they do, but a lot of them, by their own admission, would say that they're not overly savvy with the technology side of things and are still learning that aspect. And I've certainly come across a lot of people that say, I just don't really understand cloud storage. Is it safe? Does that mean it can just get hacked into and people can pull my information off? What's the reality of it, and how do you answer that question?
Yeah, no, it comes up all the time. And like you say, a lot of people running events are not, and neither should they be knowledgeable about that, because it's a very deep hole you can go into. So we like to give peace of mind by explaining like who we're using for our hosting, as I mentioned. But we also like to be able to just allow them to see that with all of our documentation, it outlines exactly what happens to their data and where it goes, how it's encrypted when it comes to things like credit cards, all that sort of stuff. So that really gives them peace of mind. Often they think, but the data would be more secure if it was in our office. We have to explain to them, well, do you have people come and audit the way you're stored, and is it, who has access to that room? So they don't often understand the things that go into hosting data in the cloud. So if we explain that to them in layman's terms, it generally makes them a lot happier.
And of course, there's also, if you host it in the cloud, there's a massive savings you're making on the IT investment you would have to make personally to kind of get the same level of quality that the data centers are offering. And they're doing an amazing job at making backups for you. So they kind of take all of that away from you and organize it for you. So I think there's definitely a benefit there as well.
It's a good point. There's we often see this a lot where corporations, associations, whoever wants to use our software will come to us and they'll say, look, how much involvement does our IT team have to have, because they're already overworked and they've got so many other things they're doing. The last thing they want to do is manage another system. And when we explain how it's cloud-based and we look after, as Maarten said, the backups and all of the security and so on, that's actually a major plus for them. They think, great, we don't have to get the IT guys involved at all. We can have this managed by somebody else.
Well, without wanting to dwell on the subject of protecting the data too much, what I am curious to know again is that both of your companies work on a global level. We're not just dealing with the UK or Europe, we're talking global. How does it work when you've got countries with different laws, different regulations relating to data, in developing systems that work globally so that the company can run consistently across the board, but still maintain the levels that you've got to adhere to in all the different countries that you're operating? Yeah,
laws change all the time, especially around privacy. So as a software provider, a global software provider, that's our responsibility to make sure that we can manage those, if it's opt-out or opt-in or whatever those laws may be, make sure the software handles that. But also, one of the big things that crops up, especially for European clients, is, where is the data stored? Is it, if it's in the US, how does the Patriot Act affect that? Where, after 9/11, the Patriot Act was brought in so that the US government could seize data that they thought might be or suspect of terrorism links, things like that. I think that scared a lot of people and probably unnecessarily, because there's actually a lot more laws around that about that has to be subpoenaed and everything else. But to safeguard that and give people peace of mind, there's things like safe harbor certification, which we have for our software, so that that the data is protected.
And Maarten, again, I know that you mentioned earlier that a lot of the work that you do from an integration point of view is often in the background, but again, working on a global level, presumably there are still elements that you have to take into account working in all these different countries.
Yeah, of course. And, like we mentioned, we offer both an on-premise solution and a cloud solution just for that specific reason, that we have certain clients that want to keep the data in their company. If that's their preference, we don't want to limit that as, an issue for us. So we do both options. But yeah, it's definitely, it's a possibility to offer that.
I'd like to take a few minutes to explore the actual relationship between etouches and Scribe, because I understand that there is a working relationship there, both as a client and also as a partnership. Could we talk a little bit about that and perhaps how it's worked, and look at how the two of you have worked together, first of all, on the partnership level?
Yeah, and I can certainly take a first stab at that if you like, because I was heavily involved in the initial setup of this. One of the challenges we have at etouches is when clients come to us with third-party systems and they want to be able to integrate those with our software. Traditionally, the way that's been done is to be a purpose-built native integration between etouches and the CRM, or etouches in the marketing system, or etouches in the financial system, whatever it may be. Those native integrations, whilst very important, are also very labor-intensive and take a lot more support and management, because not only are we having to worry about what changes we make at etouches as we update the system, but we also have to take into account the changes that the third parties are making when they do an upgrade, and then how that affects the integration. So to us, Scribe was a perfect fit from an integration partnership perspective, because they look after the direct dealing with those third parties. We're just exposing our data and our data points to the Scribe platform that then looks after how that work in turn with that third party. And I'm sure Maarten could probably explain that better than I can.
Yeah, a little bit. So that's really, we make sure that we have those conversations with all those other software vendors as well, like marketing automation systems, CRM systems, just to keep track of what are they doing with their system. Are they making any changes? And we'll adjust our connectors to any new updates they bring out. And that's really why the relationship with all of those companies is also very important to us, to make sure that if they're making any changes, that we can make them as quickly as possible, so we can hand them to the other partners as well to use those updated integrations. Because that's kind of what the labor intensity is. It's not building it once, it's maintaining the integration, and also dealing with things like errors. And if anything can happen on both sides, you need to be able to capture that and fix it as quickly as possible. And the Scribe platform actually does that automatically in the background for you. So that's...
And the attractive thing, one of the attractive things to etouches about working with Scribe as an integration partner was the fact that they already have a lot of out-of-the-box, so to speak, integrations with products like Marketo, Microsoft Dynamics, systems that a lot of our other clients will use and they want to integrate with. So by being able to integrate with the Scribe platform, that allows us to not have to worry about doing native integrations with all of these things, and knowing that it's going to be maintained and updated. So, from that perspective, it's opened up a lot more, or freed up a lot more of our resources, developmental-wise, to focus on the etouches aspects as opposed to the integration aspects.
Yeah. And when we were actually having this conversation with etouches, we actually figured out that they were offering this event solution that actually added some functionality that we were missing in our marketing automation solution. And we really wanted to use that functionality as well. And then we, of course, came into the same kind of questions. So if we have etouches to do our events with, how do I get that information into the marketing automation system? So we're using our own solution, as a matter of fact, to push that information over. And that really gives marketing the transparency and the reporting options it needs in the marketing automation system. But it still gives us the best solutions from the etouches platform to do things like invoicing people and really doing a lot more around the event, like putting them in the right tracks and sessions. And that information is also something we want to share with the marketing team. So,
you're both in London at the moment because there was an etouches event that took place yesterday. Am I right in saying that Scribe are also undertaking their own events as well?
Yes, you are.
But perhaps we could talk about those just very briefly, about the etouches event and the Scribe events individually, and what the intention was with yesterday's event, Steve. Sure. Yesterday's event was part of an ongoing roadshow series that we've got going globally at the moment. It's like think of it as a mini user conference where we had one in New York at the end of June. This was the second one, which was here in London for our UK and European clients. The format was at lunch, get 30, 40 people together, give them an understanding of what we're doing at etouches with the latest developments, a couple of case studies, a couple of partner presentations, just to really fill them in with the latest news from etouches and give them a chance to interact and meet the executive team. We had most of the executive team out here from the States. And the feedback we got was great. The people really enjoyed the engagement, found out a lot of things they didn't know. We're in the events industry, and face to face, you just can't beat it. No matter what, how many times you might do a video conference or everything else. you just can't beat face to face. As we like to say, there's no such thing as a virtual beer. So.
Absolutely. And Maarten, some of the events that Scribe are undertaking and the purposes behind those?
So those are actually of similar fashion. So we were really looking to connect to our partners as well. In this case, we're in London for a more technical event. So we invited our partners and our customers to send over their technical people. And we have like two different platforms, as I explained. We have one which is on-premise and one in the cloud. So that's one of the things where we needed a platform like etouches to actually figure out which way do we want to go. That's customer information which we have in our system, but we need to know this for the event so we can kind of define how big the room should be for each session and put those kinds of things in place. So,
from a trend point of view, Steve, how do you? You mentioned earlier in the podcast that you will regularly take input from organisers coming to you to say, here are the issues, here are the problems, here's what we would like to do, can you do it? How do you react as a company the size of etouches to trends, either locally or globally? Because in the UK market, it will have its own trends that develop. It will react itself to global trends in the event industry. How does that work in terms of moving forward?
Yeah, it's an extremely important aspect of the business. We have to stay current with what's going on. The last 5 years, mobile has been the buzz around the events, around the technical side of the events industry. Everybody wants to do more things on their mobile phone. Initially, it was people just wanted an app and they wanted to be able to be at the event and see the agenda and replace the printed guide. These days, it's moved on so much more from that, where the mobile device is now a way of interacting and engaging with the speakers. It's a way of rating things as they happen. It's a way of interacting with the attendees and gamification and being able to win prizes, and it's really opened up the whole aspect of customer and client engagement at events. So that's one trend that has been hot globally for the last few years. The next sort of trends we see happening, things like data. We started out talking about data, and what are we doing with that data, and why is it important to understand our clients better? It's all about being able to offer relevant information to your clients when we're all time poor. We all get hundreds of emails a day. We all get spam with this and that. But if I get sent information that's relevant to me, it's about things I'm interested in, I'm going to take the time to read that. And the only way to understand what's relevant to me is to mine that data that you're collecting from all aspects of events and social feeds and everything else.
I keep flipping backwards and forwards here, but something did occur to me speaking to you both about your events that you're running as companies, that you're both technology companies delivering digital services fundamentally, yet you both still see the value in getting together with your clients face to face. This is an interesting topic because we were talking to people on previous episodes of the podcast about conferences and how they will rise and fall, and there'll be patterns in conferences, but ultimately, regardless of virtual conferencing and being able to Skype somebody or do conference calls, people still want to get together, don't they?
Fundamentally, yes, that's a human nature, fundamental. We want to get together, we like to get together, and the technology piece is only there to enhance the experience. It's not there to replace it.
Sorry, Maarten, I was going to just flip back. I've been sent some information here, which I'm going to just refer back to. And this is just a recent announcement in the last couple of days. EU and USA agree protection for shared data. I don't know if either of you are aware of this, but it's certainly relevant to what we were talking about earlier, Steve. The European Union and the USA have reached an agreement on how to protect the data that is shared for law enforcement purposes. The deal has been under negotiation for years, and essentially what this is giving is rights to EU citizens to take issue with their data being shared over in the USA. So I think that this does fall into cloud storage and information being stored over perhaps on US servers that are relevant to events and customers over in Europe. Interesting that it's come out in the last couple of days.
Yeah, and it really it might have come out in the media the last couple of days, but as it says, it's been an issue for years, and that's why things like the Patriot Act or the Safe Harbour certification exist to make sure that the people in Europe have peace of mind. But even more than that, for companies like us, we can't just say, oh yes, we've got this certification or that certification. For some clients, it doesn't matter. They're still adamant their data needs to be stored out external to the US, whether it's in their own country or just somewhere outside of the US. So we have to move with those requests, and so we're actually have set up a data center in Australia right now for clients that need that, with the intention of having another data center also in Europe as well.
I don't know if either of you will be able to tell us, because I know that there is often secrecy surrounding new products and when they're going to come out, and that there's research and development that has to be done. But is there any information that you can give us in terms of projects that you're working on at the moment that will hopefully come to market via your own platforms in the near future?
So I think for Scribe, we're at a very good position where we are right now. So we're really trying to make the product even better for the people that are working in it. And as I said, most people won't even see what it's doing. So we're really making some improvements in the background. And since we're doing data integration, it's all about the speed and the connectivity. So that's definitely what we're working on. We're building out the etouches connector. We're just starting that, and it's going to be, we're going to add more and more functionality there, because that's kind of how it works with all the connectors. And I think that's our main point for the foreseeable future.
And at etouches, we've just we've been looking very, very strategically at where we want to be positioned in the next coming years. And whilst we've got a very robust core platform, we figured there was a couple of pieces that were very important to that are missing. And so we've recently made a couple of acquisitions. One for a mobile app company doing native apps. We had a web-based app for years already, but having a native app rather than just referring that off to partners has been a significant piece of fitting into that core app, the core application we offer. So that's been huge for us, and we're just about to launch another piece, which is the venue sourcing. So when a meeting planner wants to find the venue they want to take their event to in a city they're not familiar with, being able to source the venues that meet their criteria and send the RFPs off. Again, that was something we would typically refer them to someone else to do, but we recognise that as being a very core part of the system. So we've now acquired a company to do that, and we're building that piece out now as well.
Exciting times for both of you. Thanks for joining Talking Events today. People listening to this, as ever, we invite you to get in touch with the podcast via the @TalkingEvents Twitter handle with questions, with comments, with information on what you're doing at the moment with your own events, with your data, with your CRM systems, and how you're integrating that into the different platforms that are out there now. A video of the podcast will be available via the Event Industry News website and also the Event Industry News YouTube channel. It leaves me to thank Maarten Westdorp from Scribe and Steve Mackenzie from etouches for joining the podcast. My name is James Dickson, and this is Talking Events.